Hi everyone, Tyler Manion here, NPC and IFBB Pro League Vice President. This will be your Mr. Olympia recap for the figure division. I think we had a very good figure top four this year. Obviously, a brand new champion, and I do think it was very close between Rhea and Lola for first and second place. So when we go into it, I would go pose by pose here. First up is the front pose. Obviously, both these girls have the right amount of development that we want to see for figure. I think very good balance between their upper and their lower bodies. For Rhea, I think the shoulders and the arms are the correct size. The shoulders flow very well into the arms with the correct amount of muscle and cap to them. Now go into her taper. She has a very nice taper into a nice small waist. Good detail in the midsection. Go down into the lower body. The legs, I think, are very balanced with the upper body now. Before, she had more muscle in her upper body. She was upper body dominant. Now I think she streamlined that down and is very, very balanced overall. The correct amount of leg width and development and muscle in her legs and her quads from the front here. Conditioning also, again, for figure, I think her conditioning was spot on. And I think one of the main differences, even when I go pose by pose here, but one of the main differences between Rhea and Lola for me was the conditioning front to back. Every single body part was exactly where we want to see it for figure. Again, you have that slight separation everywhere, but there's no feathering. The hardness is not extra in all of her poses here, whether it's in her legs, her upper body, or anything. So I think that perfect conditioning played a role in why she was able to squeak out a win here. But again, now we go into Lola's front pose. Again, still very balanced. Arms and shoulders with the correct development. For Lola, I think here's where you see the lack of width that she has in her back. That's the number one thing I think she needs to improve on, is adding a little bit more width to those lats. Again, in the lower body, I feel like her quads have the right amount of development from the front now. Again, you see that good conditioning, the slight separation here in the lower body. I don't think her pulling a full vacuum does anything to help with this pose. Again, we don't really see much detail in the midsection when she does this. She already has a nice small waist, so I don't think this enhances the pose for her at all. I mean, obviously, I haven't seen it without the vacuum, but I still think that because of Rhea's advantage in her V-taper and her width, that I think she takes this pose to make it 1 pose to 0. Next is the side pose, the first quarter turn, but I can kind of lump the side poses in together because I think they both pose basically the same from both sides. And for me, in both side poses, from shoulder to shoulder and how they display their taper, I think Lola does a better job of this. I think you see from shoulder to shoulder in her taper, it just displays better than Rhea's. Also, for Lola, I think her positioning on the shoulders is exactly perfect. For Rhea, she's pushing that back shoulder over just a little bit too much. I think that definitely makes a difference when looking at that width across the top. Then again, how the taper is displayed, even though Rhea has a better taper and better lats, because of the positioning of this pose, and I think how much she's twisting and pushing over that back shoulder, it's causing her to over rotate just a little bit. So her waist doesn't look as small as it is and as small as Lola's, and the taper in the lats doesn't look as pronounced and doesn't flow as well in this pose. Lower body wise, I think they're both very similar in their legs from the side here. I won't really change much up with that. I think the difference comes with the upper body positioning, and this goes for also the other quarter turn as well. So I have Layla taking both side poses. Now we get to the back pose, and again, for me, the main difference here is the width and the taper of Rhea to Lola. I think they both display good depth and detail in their back. Again, the shoulders and then the arms, they all flow well into the torso. Go into the lower body, they both have development in their glutes. Here is where I said perfect conditioning, where it really comes into play for Rhea over Lola, is her conditioning was very, very good, but you see Lola still a little bit hard in her hamstrings. Now compare that to Rhea. I think Rhea is displaying the proper amount of conditioning throughout her lower body here from glutes down in the back. So when you look at the taper and then you look at the proper conditioning in the lower body, I think Rhea takes this pose pretty clearly. So now for me, it's 2 poses to 2. And like I said, what the difference was for me is I think Rhea displayed that perfect conditioning and overall balance, and everything else was just better than Lola. So for me, that let me give the edge to Rhea and edge out Lola for first place. But both very, very good representations of what we want to see. In third place, we had Jessica. Obviously, Jessica was a front runner for this show. She's been second to Sydney the last 2 years. And really for me, for Jessica, I felt like she kind of over dieted, and by over dieting, she also lost a little bit of her weaker body parts. I felt like her back definitely wasn't as good as it's normally been. Still could use more width to her back, still a little bit more depth as well, but definitely from the width, I felt like that hurt. And then also I felt like the legs came down a little bit as well overall from all angles. So the legs being downsized, losing some of that volume to the back, and then conditioning wise, she was actually, in my opinion, a little bit too hard. You could see some striations when she was moving and transitioning in her poses. So not overly hard, but still, again, when you're looking at Aria, who I think displayed the proper conditioning all the way throughout. When you look at Lola, the only place that she was a little bit hard was her hamstrings. You're seeing Jessica, and you can see some little striations when she's transitioning and moving around in poses. That shows you that she was also a little bit too hard. And normally her trademark is coming in very, very full with still that slight separation. She's normally very good at hitting that figure conditioning. Just didn't hit the mark this time around. And with that and losing some of the volume from her body parts, that separated her from the top two. In fourth place was Denise. Again, Denise brought a very, very impressive, very clean, very balanced looking physique to the stage. Really impressed with her. Judged her at a couple shows that she won earlier this year. I think she still improved a little bit from those shows to this show. For me, the things Denise needs to work on are she still needs to add a little bit more of that thickness and width to her lats. I think her back pose looks very solid, but you can see she just doesn't have the same width that she needs in these poses. But then also when you look at the side poses, I still think she can hit these poses better. You can see whenever she was standing next to Lola specifically from the side, you see the big difference in the side poses between Lola and between Denise. So one thing obviously is improving the lats because that's going to show off the taper better, but also the positioning of the pose, how she's hitting that pose is going to make those side poses better as well. I think those need to come up the most for her to really get next to and challenge the girls that were ahead of her, the top two. And then also for her, she was just slightly hard in the legs a little bit and also in the shoulders a little bit as well. So conditioning wise, she needs to just be a touch fuller. That's only going to enhance the look, obviously. So just a little bit too hard in those places. But again, nothing overly hard that needs to be really penalized or anything else. It's just when you're looking at girls that are in the exact proper conditioning, you see that that stands out a little bit. But again, I think she has amazing potential and a very, very bright future still, even taking fourth this year.